So whether it's the analysis we have to engage in on the Lurie Daniel Favors show, whether it's the analysis you have to engage in as someone just dealing with life and its ass off right now, we have to be intentional about making sure our internal environment is as healthy as possible. And by that, I mean we have to attend to our emotional health. We have to attend to our spiritual health. For those of you who believe that, and those of you who don't, just stick with emotions. It's fine. We all have, ain't trying to convince nobody or nothing. Do what you got to do to tap in how you tap in. But we have a ritual on this show so that we can not only embody the best of joy, gratitude, and appreciation in our personal lives, but so that we can bring that sort of approach to the topics, the difficult topics that we discuss as well. The ritual is called the Moment of Gratitude, and it goes a little something like this. Hit it! In just a minute, y'all gonna hear music. And when you hear the music, it's gonna be an invitation to you to join the rest of us as we collectively take what should probably be the slowest, deepest, most lung capacity expanding, joyful heart invigorating, troubled mind cleansing, weary soul uplifting, the most amazingly juicy breath that you've ever taken with a couple million other people at once as we kick off our most important segment of every single day. It is time for our moment of gratitude.
Breathe it in. Breathe it in, breathe it in, let it out, breathe it in, let it go.
Yes, indeed, folks. Every day we got to do it. Shout out to the team, Amina and Jonah and all the hosts on this channel from Urban View Mornings all the way through this show, Clay Show, Karen Show, Reverend Al, The Weekend Show. I mean, this place is banging, and I'm just so grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the Nubians, for the Urban View audience. It's just a really good space to be. And today we're continuing a bit of our reprieve. We had taken yesterday, I should say, a bit of reprieve from looking at responsibility, right? Because responsibility is taxing. We don't always want to have to be responsible, but we have to be. And we spent a lot of this summer talking in our moments of gratitude about taking responsibility for our growth, taking responsibility for the ways that we have either intentionally or unintentionally contributed to our own suffering and our own set of circumstances from which we now have to navigate. And that's important and it's powering. And yesterday we talked a little bit differently. We needed a bit of a reprieve. We talked about being enough as we currently are. And I wanted today to share with you something that actually does go back to our conversation about responsibility. And this one is actually a comment. If you go on my IG, you'll see, because I post the moments of gratitude now each morning, you'll see that this is a comment from one of you listeners, from the Hive Life Productions. Now, I don't know the Hive Life Productions. I believe they've commented on my post a couple of times before. I have not noticed any problematic behaviors from the Hive Life Productions. In fact, they've been contributing in healthy ways. I had to go back and check just to make sure, because you never know. But they said something, I think perhaps in response to something that I mentioned yesterday, that I actually went in and responded. I don't often get a chance to respond to the comments because, I have like a whole job that I go to before and after this show. But I went back and responded. I was like, this comment is powerful. Like, this is its own moment of gratitude. And so I made that the focus of our moment of gratitude today. I spoke yesterday about the question that someone had posed on one of my previous emojis where they said, I'm struggling with this idea that we contribute to our own suffering. And they were struggling with this idea because for them, in their also correct way of viewing the world, because we can walk and chew gum, it's a both and universe. In their way of viewing the world, which is correct for them, they felt that gave too much power to oppressors, too much power to abusers, for people who are victimized by these folks to essentially, if I'm being victimized by you or a system, and then I say, well, it's my fault that I'm here, I made choices to bring me here, and then that's sort of a re-traumatizing of myself, and it is an absolution of the blame and responsibility that is properly laid at the feet of the person benefiting from my intention, from my oppression, right? And that makes perfect sense to me. I think, yes, that's also true. That's why we have both and, why that can be true, and it can also be true that when I make decisions out of my anger, out of my frustration, out of my hatred, out of my ego, all of that is kind of rooted in ego, that I'm also, regardless of who else might be oppressing me, I am also, because I'm moving from an energetic that is in and of itself faulty when it comes to decision making, I am also contributing to making my circumstances worse. Both things can be true. But one of you, again, the Hive Life Productions, had this to say, and I don't know if it was directly in response to this, but I interpreted it as such, and so I'm sharing it with you for the same reason. They said the following: assigning responsibility is not the same as placing blame. Whether you did it or not, growing past it is up to you. And this to me was so important because, quite frankly, some of y'all say things way better than I could have ever said them. And this is one of those moments where I was like, that was perfect. Whether you did it or not, whether you are being oppressed from outside, whether the consequences or the circumstances you are facing are the direct result of other people's malevolent toying with your life. Or if you are instead dealing with circumstances that are a result of you just being the weakest link in your own life and screwing up choices that you should have decided better. Or if it's some combination thereof. As I've said to one of my favorite family members, one of the young people in my life, who is one of those people who believes in placing blame, well, it's your fault. It's your fault. And well, if it's your fault, well, then my question to that person is always, well, after you've assigned blame, then what? Because if you have successfully assigned blame, you have successfully identified the person who's responsible for your suffering. And you can break down the systems, you can break down the oppression, you can break down the way that the individual and the systematic factors contribute to conspire in ways that are going to limit your opportunities and take choices away from you and create an environment and circumstances that you are just forced to deal with lack and oppression. Whether it's all of that, guess what? All of that could be true, but it's still up to you. All of that can be true. But you know who's going to be able to get you out of that situation? You. All of it can be true. Yes, it could. And maybe let's even go so far as to saying the circumstances you're navigating. Let's be overly generous and say everything that you are dealing with right now is someone else's fault. All the problems that you're facing right now, you can blame on somebody else. They are responsible for it. It happened on their watch. They allowed it, empowered it. It was on their charge. And let's say we can blame them for everything. Guess what? It's still you. Getting past that is still you. Getting to freedom is still you. Getting to a reality where they no longer have the ability to do that, it's on you. And when you're talking about collective oppression, it's on us. So when we identify blame, when we identify who's responsible for the circumstance, that's just part of the challenge. Because, yeah, it feels good to be able to say, see, I'm in this problem and it wasn't even my fault. It was your fault. That feels good, especially if you're sort of wired like me and I'm an I told you so kind of sister, which we all know because I like to say I told you so. And if you can assign that blame and responsibility, that's fine. That's beautiful. And I know it feels good. But then what? What you gonna do after that? You just gonna sit in the, 2 years ago, I proved to the court, I proved to everybody in the world that it was their fault and they were the ones responsible for my suffering. I did that 10 years ago. I've been done proved that. But sis, bruh, fam, you identified who was to blame and who was responsible, but you ain't do the next part, which was to figure out what you are going to do to take control over what you can control and create a different opportunity for yourself. Because if all you do is stop, y'all know I ain't talking to y'all, I'm talking to me. If all I do is stop at who I properly identify as a source of my pain and suffering, and then I just sit there consistently pointing to them as the source of my pain and suffering, then I am abdicating my personal responsibility to do what I can do, to take responsibility of what I can be responsible for and grow past it, move past it, evolve past it, coexist with it, whatever the circumstance is. And there's a variety of them. We were not going to be able to find a verb to hit every one. But at the end of the day, you can assign the blame. You can assign responsibility. You can do all of those things. The fact is, the only one that's going to be able to get you out of that is you, is us, is me. Because if you look into the person who you correctly identified as the source of your frustration and pain and be like, why are you not stopping the frustration and pain? You're like the person in the example we gave back in the beginning of the month who got bit by a snake. And instead of doing the work of getting healed from the snake bite, you want to go find the snake. You're trying to talk to the snake and to figure out why the snake bit you. You want to blame the snake for biting you. You want closure from the snake. It's a snake. It's going to do what snakes do. If you're dealing with the devil gonna devil. That's what devils do. So you telling the devil why you so devilish and then asking the devil to help heal the problem that the devil caused is a clear indication that you don't understand the power of the devil. And so you would do with that analogy whatever it is that you will. The responsibility is on us. Growing past it is on us. Identifying the source of the problem. If you're a doctor, if all they could do was identify the source of the problem and didn't have a prescription or help you figure out what to do next, then what good are they? And so today, as we think about the challenges that we're facing, be they systemic, be they circumstantial, be they oppressive, be they personal, the reality is assign responsibility. Sure, feels good. Place the blame. Sure, it helps. And then what? Then you got to figure out what the next steps are. And that, my friends, is on you. It's on me. It's on us. Because the devil is going to continue to devil. The snake going to continue to snake. But freedom is going to continue to be elusive so long as we are focused more on closure and assigning blame and figuring things out and understanding who went wrong and why they went wrong, as opposed to figuring out how we move closer to freedom. It's a hard one. I know. We don't like it. I get it. But it's important that we recognize it. Otherwise, we remain crippled in ways that might have started with the oppression of someone else or the circumstances that we found ourselves in, but that crippling is maintained by our unwillingness to get up and walk. I know it's a hard one. Sorry. Sometimes the moments of gratitude are a little less pleasant than otherwise, but so is growth. Remember a caterpillar going from a caterpillar, morphing into a butterfly cannot feel pleasant the entire time. Otherwise, scientists would figure out how to bottle that in dopamine and sell it, because that would also be important. So my friends, I don't know what it is today that gives you a sense of joy or gratitude, or a reminder that your birthright includes the right to thrive. And quite frankly, if your birthright includes the right to thrive, that means you got to take thriving actions, right? So that again gets us back to that responsibility. But whatever it is that gives you a sense of joy, gratitude, and appreciation, I'm going to need you to hold it, cherish it, and spread and sprinkle as much of the juicy goodness of it as you possibly can into the lives of other people, because Lord knows we could all use a bit more of it. And that, my friends, is today's moment of gratitude.
Breathe it in, breathe it in, let it out, breathe it in, let it go. Breathe
Every day, folks, every day we got to do it, and every day it matters.